Alright, so this is a contextualized linear equation. So basically it's a worded problem that we need to develop a linear equation for. So our problem is the manufacturer's daily overheads, so their fixed costs, are $4,000 and the cost to produce each item is $250. Answer each of the following questions. So A, we need to identify the variables, the constants and the coefficients. So remember, a variable is something that is going to change every time. Constant always stays the same. I can't spell constant. And the coefficient relies on something else to make sense. So, A, our variables. So the things that are going to change depending on each job. For this question, there are two. So it's going to be the number of items that we make, because that's never going to be the same. And if the number of items that we make are never going to be the same, then the cost to produce each item is not going to be the same. So our production costs. Sometimes you might make 5, so you'd have to spend more money. Sometimes you might make 1 and not spend as much money. So that's our variables. Next one we've got are our constants. So the things that are staying the same all the time. So the one thing that is not going to change is our fixed cost. So the word fixed means it's not changing, it is staying the same. So we know that that is $4,000. And then our coefficient is the cost that the company needs to spend that is staying the same, but will be dependent on either the number of items or the total production costs. So the only thing left in this question is 250. So 250 is always going to be how much it costs to produce an item, but how many times you need to calculate that 250 times by something is going to be dependent on your variables. So that is step A done. So B, now we need to find a word equation to represent the production cost. So we already know that we're looking for the cost of production. So this is just a fancy way of using a linear equation. So before anyone tries to argue that you'll never need to use this in life, boys, if you're going into a trade, or girls, if you're going into a trade, you will need to know how to use a linear equation. So, cost of production. We are going to need to know the cost of our item times by, so our cost times by our number of items plus our constant, which is not changing, which are our fixed costs. So that's a worded equation to represent that. Now what we need to do for C is substitute it so we actually have numbers in our equation. So the cost of production, think linear equation, we're trying to figure out Y. The cost of our item was our coefficient, so how much it cost for each item. So we keep our 250. The number of items is what we don't know because it's our variable. So we put our X because we're not too sure of what that is. And then we need to add the last thing, which were our fixed costs, and they don't change at all, they stay the same, they're constant. So we're adding 4,000. And that is how you do a worded problem.